Recall petition against KMT lawmaker Meng-kai submitted. Taiwan inflation remains above 2% in April. KMT Keelung officials questioned over recall petition fraud. S.Korea's conservatives pick Moon-soo as pres candidate. Canada won't be for sale, ever, Carney tells Trump. India fires missiles into Pakistan. New Zealand PM proposes social media ban for Under-16s. China's swap stations could be the future of EVs.
Hello everyone, I'm Oceana. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It is Thursday, May 8th, Victory Day, and here are your top stories. And for today's Taiwan news, a recall group submitted 54,888 petition forms to the new Taipei Election Commission to oust KMT lawmaker Meng-kai. The number exceeds the legal threshold by 141.5%. Hong, who won the most votes nationwide in the 2024 legislative election, faces recall efforts led by the group Recall Hong Now. The Election Commission is currently reviewing the signatures. Taiwan's CPI rose 2.03% in April, staying above the 2% inflation warning line. Despite falling fuel prices, high food costs, and rising expenses for dining out, rent, and education kept inflation elevated. Core CPI, excluding food and energy, rose 1.66%. Prices for key household items rose 0.87% year-on-year, marking a second consecutive monthly increase. Prosecutors searched the KMT Keelung office for a second time amid a recall petition forgery probe. Party chief Wu Guosheng and former deputy secretary Han Ji-yuan were questioned and released on a 100,000 NTD bail. After posting bail, Han claimed innocence, saying some matters are hard to explain clearly and human memory isn't always reliable. And in global news, South Korea's Conservative People Power Party has picked former Labor Minister Moon-soo as its candidate for the June 3rd presidential election. Kim will face the Liberal Democratic Party's candidate, Lee Jae-myung, who has led all declared conservative candidates by large double-digit margins in polls. Kim, a former labor activist who later became a hardline conservative, served as labor minister under Yoon and has pledged to implement business-friendly policies if elected.
He laid out a sweeping conservative vision for the country in his acceptance speech, vowing to take a hard line against North Korea and to implement incentives for businesses, innovation, and science. He also pledged to strengthen policies supporting young workers and the underprivileged, recounting his experiences as a labor and democracy activist, for which he was jailed and expelled from school. He said, "I have never abandoned the weakest among us in the lowest of places." According to a survey, Lee remains the clear frontrunner, with nearly 50% public support, while Kim has 13%.
President Donald Trump's first meeting with Canada's new Prime Minister on Tuesday was far less confrontational than his interactions with the country's previous leader, Justin Trudeau, even as Mark Carney reiterated that there is no way the country will become part of the United States. When asked later what was going through his mind during Trump's remarks inside the Oval Office, Carney said, "I'm glad you couldn't tell what was going through my mind."
It would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
The two leaders complimented each other multiple times during the meeting, a stark contrast to Trump's icy relationship with Trudeau, whom he regularly taunted as Governor Trudeau. Speaking to reporters later in the day, Trump praised Carney, saying, "I like him. He's a nice man. We get along very well. We had a great meeting today. Really good. I think the relationship's going to be very strong." However, it remains to be seen whether the comedy will last and whether Carney will be able to use the initial goodwill to push back against Trump's pressure on trade and Canada's sovereignty.
According to Pakistan, India fired several missiles into its territory overnight on Tuesday, prompting Islamabad to declare it is responding to the act of war. The Indian Defense Ministry stated that the attacks, labeled Operation Sindoor, targeted 9 sites of terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The ministry said no Pakistani military facilities were targeted, calling the strikes focused, measured, and non-escalatory.
The Pakistani army said India struck 6 locations, including Kotli, Muzaffarabad and Bahawalpur. Civilian buildings were targeted, causing at least 8 people were killed, including a 3-year-old, and another 35 injured. Pakistan's Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, said in a statement that Pakistan has every right to respond forcefully to this act of war imposed by India, and a forceful response is being given. The Pakistani army said it is responding from the air and ground. India has blamed Pakistan for a deadly attack in the disputed Kashmir region that occurred in April. The militant attack, known as the Pahalgam incident, left 26 people dead in Indian-held Kashmir.
New Zealand's Prime Minister has proposed banning children under 16 from using social media in an effort to protect young people from harms such as exposure to violent content and cyberbullying. Christopher Luxon said on Tuesday that the draft law would require social media companies to verify that users are at least 16 before allowing them to create an account, or face fines of up to $1.2 million. He said that while social media can offer benefits, it is not always a safe place for young people, and the onus is on tech companies to act responsibly.
Teachers and parents raised concerns with him, including cyberbullying, exposure to violent or inappropriate content, exploitation, and social media addiction. Luxon said, "Parents are constantly telling us that they are really worried about the impact social media is having on their children, and they say they are really struggling to manage access." The bill's author, National MP Catherine Wedd, said there are no legally enforceable age verification measures for social media platforms in New Zealand, and her bill would give families better oversight of their children's online use. The proposed ban is modeled closely on Australia's, which is at the forefront of global efforts to regulate social media.
Battery swapping, which simply means changing out depleted electric vehicle batteries for fresh, recharged ones, is an alternative to charging batteries inside the vehicle, as used for the vast majority of the world's electric cars. While battery swapping is still largely a nascent sector, China has by far the world's most developed model. Although it's mainly used for larger vehicles, nearly half of the electric heavy-duty trucks sold in China in 2023 were equipped with battery swap technology. The country is also seriously experimenting with swaps for personal cars.
Chinese electric vehicle company NIO has now built over 3,300 battery swap stations in China, while CATL, China's and the world's largest EV battery producer, recently announced plans with oil giant Sinopec to build a battery swapping ecosystem across the whole nation. Battery swapping offers several key advantages, particularly the shorter time it takes compared to recharging a battery inside a car. Still, it faces challenges in China, which is also rapidly developing fast-charging infrastructure. In fact, experts suggest that battery swaps may be most useful in countries that, unlike China, are still in the early stages of transitioning to EVs, especially in helping to address range anxiety among drivers.
The answer for yesterday was B, levy. The government decided to levy a new tax on imported goods to boost revenue. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into today's news. New Zealand Prime Minister proposes social media ban for under-16s. Number 1, oversight, 监督, 疏忽. The project is under strict government oversight to ensure safety. Number 2, enforceable, 可执行的, 可强制执行的. The new policy is legally enforceable starting next month. Number 3, verification, 验证, 查证. We need verification of your identity before granting access. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section, and the correct answer will be announced tomorrow. Victory Day marks the celebration of the end of a major global conflict. It first began after the defeat of the Axis powers during World War II. The day originally started in Europe, where people celebrated the end of a long, brutal war. The first observance took place soon after the official surrender of Nazi Germany. People across many nations rejoiced, and leaders recognized the need to commemorate this significant moment in history. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm your host, Oceana, and I'll see you next time.